Omnia Radiation Balancer brings you muscle testing for EMF radiation, using kinesiology to observe the response in the human body to microwave radiation transmitted by phones and laptops. What we will see today, Amanda Rodgers, a professional kinesiologist, will be muscle testing two different people, one on a phone and one on a laptop. We're going to do an interview showing Lucea's family exposure, how much time she's on her connected devices. Then we're going to go into the Lucea muscle test on a phone. Then we're going to do a brief highlights interview reel with Amanda, showing what are the dangers of EMF. Then we're going to move on to Austin's muscle test on a laptop. And then finally, there's a full interview with Amanda for about 20 minutes, detailing everything that she knows about muscle testing and electromagnetic frequencies. We have to issue disclaimers. Kinesiology is an established medical practice, but these results are not put forward as a peer-reviewed scientific study, but they can help you to make up your mind. The observations are personal, and testing yourself is the best proof. Always consult a qualified health professional if you have concerns about how microwave radiation is affecting your health. The Omnia Radiation Balancer is not a healing device, it is a patch which restores balance to any radiation field so that it no longer is in dissonance with the human body. And lastly, to deal with radiation of any kind, the best solution is to reduce your exposure. That said, the results in this video are real. So before we do Lucea's muscle test results, let's hear how much radiation exposure Lucea and her family experience on a typical day.
Okay, so this is Lucea that she mentioned. She's coming to be tested for a product that we will reveal shortly. Lucea, tell us a little bit about a day in the life of the Lucea Detriment household and what it is you do for a living.
Right, well, I'm a DJ and I run a full-time business from home, and I'm a parent, and my day is pretty frantic. I get up in the morning, wake the kids up, make breakfast, pack lunches. Before I've even sent them off, I'm onto the computer, working, answering emails, on my phone, dealing with all the Instagram stuff, and yeah, I'm basically spend my whole day on the computer until about 6 o'clock.
And what about the rest of the family? What are their pastimes? What kind of things do they get up to?
Once they get back from school, they're pretty much on their screens for the rest of the afternoon, evening. My son is incredibly into gaming, and my daughter loves to watch Instagram and do her makeup with Instagram kind of, tutorials or watch movies.
And collectively, how many screens would you say, if you can count the computer
there's
screens,
always,
the laptops?
Oh, in the whole house?
Yes. More than 20?
No.
Maybe around 20.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, I suppose once you add them all up.
Yeah. So between phones and laptops and iPads and Kindles and computers and desktops and TVs, it's a lot of electricity going through your house.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can hear it at night.
Okay, all right.
It drives me nuts.
Okay, so she can hear the electricity in her house. Okay, so today we're doing some demonstrations on electromagnetic radiation. Okay, so lots of electricity, lots of activity. Is there a curfew? Do you say, right, at this point, lights off and...
We've tried, but it kind of always crumbles into, no, there's no curfew anymore. I've given up on it. It's too much of a battle, to be honest.
So do you switch your computer off every night before you go to bed?
No, everything pretty much stays on.
Stays on.
I try to get the children not to have their phones charging by their beds, but even that has become just such an ongoing battle. It's almost impossible.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get started then, shall we? Let's try. We're with Lucea, and we're going to do some kinesiology. Now, kinesiology is using a muscular biofeedback to diagnose imbalances in the body. So we've got a lovely body here, and we're just going to see what happens. So I'm going to ask her to lift her knee. Very good. And I'm just going to ask you to use gentle pressure and just push against my hand as I push down. You resist back for me. And push. Okay, that's great. You got a nice, strong, lovely muscle. Now, just to be sure that muscle is going to stay strong and be lovely, I'm just going to rub here. These are the neurolymphatics that strengthen the quadricep. And push into my hand, and that muscle isn't going anywhere. Very strong, very good. Okay, so we're going to just experiment and see what happens when we put the mobile phone near her body. Now I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind doing what most people do, which is streaming something on YouTube or whatever.
Okay.
Okay, great. Now, most people hold their phones in their hand or in their pocket, usually, right? But if you're streaming, you tend to hold it in your hand, right? So if you can just kind of hold it in your hands, but don't touch your body with your hands. Yeah, just like that. Okay, great. And bend the knee. And so we're doing exactly the same as we did before. So just apply the same pressure as you always did and push back. Okay, so you can see that muscle's gone completely weak, the opposite of rock solid. All right, now with this hand, I want you to make what's called priority mode. Now basically we're asking the body, is this a problem or is this a symptom of something else? So we just want to find out what's going on with the phone and if it's going to be make the muscle change if we make this priority mode. So I'm going to ask you to put your middle finger into the crease of your thumb. That's perfect. So once again, that's basically saying, is this a problem or is this a symptom? So we only treat problems. Okay, and push into my hand. And that muscle is rock solid. Remove the finger and push into my hand, and the muscle's weak. Now, are you changing pressure or are you keeping the pressure consistent? She's never had kinesiology before. She's keeping the pressure consistent. That's the only thing I asked her to do. Right, now, we've got a product here called Omnia. And Pete will explain more how Omnia works. But you're just going to take this little sticker. Can I unstick it?
Yeah.
And we're going to apply it near the SIM card of the phone. So she can keep enjoying listening to her film or music stress-free. And hold it with both hands like you did before. Now, this is in real time. That's been on there for a second. And push back. And that's strong. Now, with this hand, I want you to go back and make priority mode. This is the first time I'm doing this, so it may work, it may not, we'll see. And push into my hand, and that muscle is weak. So the most important thing that this phone wants, because this phone has personality and has desires like we all do, is that little sticker. Now, we will explain what this little Omnia sticker with the head of Tesla means in a moment, but what we know now is that the stress from the radiation on the phone is causing weakness in her body. When we put that sticker on, that muscle goes strong again. Now, what I want to do is I want to find out where the weakness, what organs that weakness might affect. So what I like to do is remove this sticker, hold the phone, and we're going to just retest and see, and push back. And immediately the muscle's weak again. Okay, so what does this mean? Muscles go weak all the time, it's normal. But what does this mean over long-term use? Let's find out. Now, these are bits of organ. We would take real organs, but that would be messy. So we're going to use homeopathic organs. And we're just going to place this organ in your hand with the mobile phone and see what happens. I'll explain exactly what we're doing in a minute. And push. Okay. That's very weak as well. Now I'm going to place another hand, organ. And push into my hand. Okay. So the first organ we placed in her body was her kidney. The second one was her lung. And the last one we're checking and push is liver. Now, with all three of those organs in the hand, it's as if we're asking the question, how is this impacting your liver, kidney, or lung? I'm going to take this phone away now for a moment.
Excuse me.
Now, it's still in the room, but it's a few meters away. And push. Oh, okay. Wow, her liver works fine. Or is that your lung? Which one is that? What's that? I haven't got my glasses.
Liver.
Okay, so liver seems to be functioning fine. Put the phone in your hand. And push. Yeah. Now, the beauty of kinesiology is either of us can do priority mode. Her hands are busy, so I'm going to do it. I'm asking the question, how is this phone affecting her liver function? If it's making no difference to her liver function, this muscle will be weak. If it is making a difference to her liver function, this muscle might go strong. Let's see, and push. Okay, I double checked. I normally don't test that long, but I wanted to be sure. Initially, the start was a little bit wobbly, but then it kicked in. So we know that the phone has an adverse effect on the liver. Now what we want is we want to keep that liver working. We want to put this back on the phone, and we want to see if she will still get to continue all the joys of using a mobile with Mr. Tesla's head. Where was the sim? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Hold on to the phone. And push. And she's strong again. Now what we want is we want good, strong firing muscles. We don't want weak muscles. We're going to check this again with other people to see how it affects other people. Now we discussed earlier that she's got a lot of electricity running in the house. And if you place one of these stickers on all of your devices, then your house will have a much better chance of being radiation free. Okay. Thanks, Lucea.
Thank you.
Just to issue a correction, because it's important to the Omnia brand, it's not that the house will be radiation free. Instead, the radiation that comes into each device in the house will be returned to a balanced waveform which will not harm the human cell. That's how the Omnia radiation balancer works, and that's what you see in the muscle test. The muscle is strong because the offending waveform has been balanced. Just to recap on Lucea's exposure, now that we've seen the muscle weakness, let's revisit the exposure levels in her household.
Okay, and what's a typical day in your household?
Typical days, I get up at 7, I make breakfast, pack lunch, send the kids off to school, then I get onto the computer by about 8.
And what's the big thing that you get frustrated with one of your kids about doing too much of? What's that?
Gaming.
Gaming. And Senka, she has 2 kids, Milos and Senka. And your daughter, what does she spend too much time on?
On her phone.
Okay,
and
so there's a lot of
YouTube, and there's a lot of screen time.
There's a lot of screen time in your house. And look.
And here's the interview with kinesiologist Amanda Rodgers. We're just going to pick out a few short highlights with the full interview to come later.
Sure. I mean, I have yet to meet anyone who doesn't test weak when you put a mobile phone, especially when it's streaming, into their hand. It's really nice to work with a body because a body never lies. And so we use, and every muscle also connects. Like you can use a muscle test. One we use often is the quadricep because it's a very strong muscle, so you can really see when that muscle goes weak. Any Wi-Fi or 4G, 3G frequencies that are coming in, the muscle will respond immediately. It won't think about it. It won't kind of wonder, is this good for me or not, where your mind might get too involved or confused. It will just say, yes, I like this. No, I don't like this. Thank you very much. The effect I felt immediately after switching, putting that sticker onto my mobile phone, onto my laptop, onto my desktop, and onto my refrigerator was quite profound. If your red blood cells are fighting to function and give off hemoglobin, and if your whole body is going weak as a result of holding onto a mobile phone, then your adrenal function, your adrenals are kicking in constantly trying to do things that your normal energy cycle should be doing, which then puts a stress on your spleen and your pancreas, which could lead to diabetes, which could lead to chronic fatigue, which could lead to all sorts of blood problems, and inflammation, and then that could lead to osteoporosis, osteoarthritis. Certainly it's going to weaken the immune system. If you haven't got a strong immune system, how are you going to fight infection? And I mean, illness tends to target the weak spot. It's a bit like a bully. So if there's something that's coming into the body, and it will just go to the weakest point, generally speaking. I've been working with radiation for decades now. It's only getting worse and worse and worse. But it's the weak ones. It's the fetuses. It's the unborn. It's the animals. It's the new fresh things that haven't yet matured yet that are the most vulnerable. And this is why I'm terrified that young children are going to become ill and have symptoms. But when Tim came along and introduced me to this Omnia radiation blocker, I was very excited and very intrigued. And what is so wonderful about it is it's instantaneous, and the effects are then, continue. So it's pretty miraculous. So we're now going to work with Austin, and Austin is one of those rare people who doesn't have a mobile phone, but he does have a computer, or a laptop rather, and he does use it. How many hours a day would you say?
12.
12 hours a day. And how much of that is on the internet?
12
hours a day on the internet. Okay, so we are going to see what effect the computer will have on his body. So what we need is we need a good strong muscle. So the muscle I always like to use is the quadricep. We're doing kinesiology biofeedback testing to see how the muscles respond to effects of electromagnetic stress. Okay, so bend this knee, and I'm just going to ask you to resist the knee back way for me that way, and just using gentle pressure, just meet my pressure and push. Okay, that's great. That's a very strong muscle. There's no way that muscle is going anywhere. All right, now bring me the computer, please. So what we're going to do, this is a nice old version. It's one of those ancient Macs. And we're just going to stream. And I'm very sorry to do this, but I'm just going to place this on your body, okay?
Okay.
Okay, now the volume's off so that I'm not interrupted, but there is something on. Okay. And then knee. Now, the weight of this alone would probably switch anybody's muscles off, so we're going to also do it without pressing it on his body. And push into my hand. Okay, that muscle is so weak it's not going anywhere. Now, Austin, can I just ask if you just hold the computer? And we'll bend the knee. And push back. Okay. Now, Austin, have you ever had kinesiology before?
No.
Are you using the same amount of muscle strength that you've been using?
Yes.
Okay. So would you agree that the muscle was strong and now it's very weak by holding the computer?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to try one of these Omnia stickers, which is a radiation blocker. And we're going to apply it on the left-hand side of the keyboard, just so. Now, the first test we did was we placed it right on his body. Now, we've never done this before. I have no idea. This computer weighs, I would say, about 4 kilos. You are not. How much do you weigh?
Don't know.
Okay. He weighs more than 4, but less than 200. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you're tall. And push back. That muscle isn't going anywhere. Hello.
Hello.
Nice chatting with you.
And nice chatting with you too. So I'm here with Amanda Rodgers, who's a kinesiologist, and she's agreed to tell us a bit more about kinesiology, but also tell us how it can help us to detect what's going on in the human body when the human body is faced with radiation. So Amanda, thanks for being with us, and do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us what got you into kinesiology?
I was doing healthcare. I was doing Chinese medicine and massage and various things. I've been doing that for over 25 years or so, and I first came across kinesiology, just went out of curiosity, didn't know anything about it. I was a receptionist in an alternative healthcare clinic, and part of my job was to have sessions of all the different treatments, and that was one that I hadn't heard of, so I went, and we spent an hour working, and in the end, I was so confused and so excited and curious, and I just wanted to know how this woman did what she did. And kinesiology is effectively a biofeedback system where you ask the body questions through the muscles. So if you imagine the muscles are a dialogue with which you ask the body questions, and the muscles connect to energetic pathways, organs, and various other things. So if you apply pressure on a muscle and you ask the client to resist against that pressure, and then you apply other questions via test kits or touch locations or sense memory stuff or psychological things, you can then the muscle will change. And I just didn't understand how these muscles would go from strength to weakness purely from placing something in someone's hand or asking them to touch your chin or nose or something. I had tried every treatment under the sun when I was bedridden and very unwell. And kinesiology was the first thing that made me think I'm going to get better. This is making me emotional. Anyway, so having had so many treatments done to me, I really enjoyed having the kinesiology, which gave me power. Gave me power over my body again. So I first did something called Touch for Health, which is using applied muscle testing to find out all different kinds of things, like allergy testing. That's like a kind of really common one for kinesiology, and you know, curing headaches, phobias, fears, anxieties, like all different kinds of things. What I have to say quickly is that kinesiology is very holistic, and like I said, it's very non-invasive because of the way it treats. And the way it treats is by looking at the body as a whole, i.e. structurally, chemically, emotionally, and energetically. And the reason I'm doing this on my fingers is because this is the structural mode, this is the chemical mode, this is the emotional mode, and this is the energetic mode. And when you apply a muscle test and you ask the client to make these finger positions, they will very quickly tell you, is this problem predominantly structural, predominantly chemical, predominantly psychological, or predominantly energetic? And then when we find out what the main problem is, then we will then also find out what can support that. So I love that it doesn't waste time working on symptoms, it just goes straight to the cause.
That's great, and basically what we're saying is that the body has its own intelligence, right? The body has an intelligence that we're not necessarily conscious of all the time, right? And that you can bring that out on the table, whereby you ask the body to tell you where it's feeling stress, right? And expose it to certain substances that allow the body to, the intelligence in the body to
Yes.
actually give you information.
Yes, often the mind kind of gets in the way when you're asking somebody a question, or they might have to sort of think up an answer that they think that they want to hear, and often the mind and body are a little bit in disharmony, and this can also be the reason why there's illness. So it's really nice to work with a body, because a body never lies. And so we use, and every muscle also connects. Like you can use a muscle test. One we use often is the quadricep, because it's a very strong muscle, so you can really see when that muscle goes weak because of its because it's very strong. So in terms of electromagnetic energy and that effect on the body, it's very clear. You can see with a mobile phone, with a laptop, with any type of switching a light on and off, for example, any Wi-Fi or 4G, 3G frequencies that are coming in, the muscle will respond immediately. It won't think about it. It won't kind of wonder, is this good for me or not, where your mind might get too involved or confused. It will just say, yes, I like this, no, I don't like this, thank you very much.
But what's interesting, I find, because I do a lot of amateur muscle testing, right, which probably upsets a few purist kinesiologists, but this is the way that I get the conversation started, which is that I do a muscle test on someone, and immediately they're shown a lot of new information that their body has an intelligence, that it's telling them something, but also new information about the fact that radiation from phones is something that genuinely their body doesn't like. And a lot of the time they sort of they have to go away and sort of think about that, and the brain gets in the way, whereas the body is trying to make the decision, right? The body is trying to tell you something which you really should be taking notice of.
Yeah. And the good news about radiation is, well, if there is a good news, is that there is stuff you can do about it. So it's not just it's not about throwing all our electric devices in the bin and moving to the countryside. There are things that we can help combat the effects of radiation. I've been working with radiation for decades now. It's only getting worse and worse and worse. But also, because when I have animals and creatures in the house, I don't want them to be exposed to it. I probably take care of my dogs more than I take care of myself. But when Tim came along and introduced me to this Omnia radiation blocker, I was very excited and very intrigued. And what is so wonderful about it is it's instantaneous, and the effects are then continue. So it's not something like a pill that you have to take every day, or something like an exercise you have to do 15 minutes a day every day. Those things are all good things to do too, potentially, but this, once it's attached to your system, it blocks the radiation and it stays that way. So it's pretty miraculous. I mean, now that I'm so aware of how much radiation is coming into me every time the phone rings, every time I streams a video, every time I do this, I still want to have that limited. It's not like I want to just think, oh, great, let's just bring it all on. But the effect I felt immediately after switching, putting that sticker onto my mobile phone, onto my laptop, onto my desktop, and onto my refrigerator was quite profound.
So the Omnia radiation balancer has tested very well in terms of Amanda's test so far. But what I wanted to ask you as well is, let's say that the body is under strain from the radiation that's passing through it on a daily basis. If you leave that, what is likely to happen in the body? And this is obviously, it links to the children question that you were just talking about, because the children are being born into this environment that we didn't have when we were younger. We didn't have this, all of our cells grew to maturity or to adult life without this interference from all the radiation. So if your body is under strain for a constant amount of time, what is likely to happen in your view?
Well, if your red blood cells are fighting to function and give off hemoglobin, and if your whole body is going weak as a result of holding onto a mobile phone, then your adrenals are kicking in constantly, trying to do things that your normal energy cycle should be doing, which then puts a stress on your spleen and your pancreas, which could lead to diabetes, which could lead to chronic fatigue, which could lead to all sorts of blood problems, and inflammation, and then that could lead to osteoporosis, osteoarthritis. Certainly it's going to weaken the immune system. If you haven't got a strong immune system, how are you going to fight infection? And I mean,
everything, basically.
Really, there's just, yeah.
I think one of the things that was explained to me is that if there's a weak point in your body, it will kind of that will be exaggerated or amplified by the constant barrage of radiation, which just weakens everything in general. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, illness tends to target the weak spot. It's a bit like a bully. So if there's something that's coming into the body, and it will just go to the weakest point, generally speaking. I mean, our bodies are incredible that we manage to get 8. And do you remember our ears used to get hot? You'd always say, my ear's heating up, I got to put the phone down. And then they introduced the Bluetooth, so now everyone sticks those things in their ears. But it's we kind of got used to it, and then accepted that a limp handshake is kind of normal, and that sort of sense of malaise and weakness is just kind of expected. I mean, when I ask people, like, when they have vitality, like, when do you feel the most vital? And most people say, oh, I don't know. I don't really have a time of day when I feel the most sort of good. I feel kind of generally okay throughout the day. But our bodies are so good at adapting to all this. I mean, you know, look at the people who suffered Chernobyl. I mean, they're kind of still okay. But it's the weak ones. It's the fetuses. It's the unborn. It's the animals. It's the new fresh things that haven't yet matured yet that are the most vulnerable. And this is why I'm terrified that young children are going to become ill and have symptoms.
Yeah, so I mean, we've done our research, and Dr. Ollie Johansson has said that there's now 1 quintillion times the amount of radiation in our lives than before we had mobile phones, and you know, that's going through our bodies all day long. You know, that's what our bodies are having to deal with. And we've done blood samples as well, which show that after you watch a video for 20 minutes, then all your blood sticks together. And that seems to be happening on the inside, and we're unconscious of that, as in we don't have any sensors in our body that pick it up and say, hey, that, you know, your blood's clotting up, or hey, you're feeling weak, or anything like that. But obviously the blood sample that we've done is also replicated in the muscle test. Am I right about that? I mean, the weakness is attached, it is replicated in the blood sample as well.
Sure. I mean, I have yet to meet anyone who doesn't test weak when you put a mobile phone, especially when it's streaming, into their hand. If they're a good, strong person who fires on all cylinders most of the time, and they're very athletic and they run marathons and do all that, you give them a mobile phone and instantly their muscle goes weak. And this is what I wonder about, like, when people listen to music and stuff when they're training and exercising and things, especially if they're listening to something like Spotify, you know, that's just streaming, how that's affecting their running. I would love to see a runner who runs without the headphones and with the headphones. Why am I all of a sudden not able to speak?
So presumably it's double the strain. No, I mean, it's double the effort, right? Your body is doing double the effort. You know, maybe on some weird level it makes you more fit, but ultimately your body is having to recover from both those things afterwards, right?
Yeah. So, and then so we determined through using some case studies today that the immediate change in the muscle, I mean, it was literally instantaneously. As soon as you put the Omnia sticker on the mobile phone near the SIM card, you could probably put it anywhere, but the SIM card is the best place, that muscle went from strength to weakness, or weakness to strength immediately. And then you take that sticker away, and then the weakness is right away back. So presumably that strength will remain so long as that sticker is on the phone. And we want muscles that fire well. We want strong muscles. I mean, it's the muscle changing is the clue that gives us the clues with which we know what the body needs. So sometimes muscle going weak is what we're looking for, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going weak, but it's just making a change, and it means there's a relevance. But ultimately, when the body leaves the room, we want all their muscles firing strong and on all cylinders. Yeah, so like I said, it's not muscles we're treating. The muscle is the dialogue with which we ask the body questions. So yes, we're treating muscle, but we're treating the energetic response of the muscle. So we're treating the whole energetic pathway that exists inside the body.
And that's not something that most people instinctively think about when they associate their bodies with disease or whatever. You know, they go to see the doctor, they're looking for almost like a chemical cure or something like that. So really what we're doing here is looking at the body's energy field, if you like, to tell us this information, because there aren't any medical tests that we can do to take a blood sample or something and say, here's how much radiation you got in your blood and that sort of thing. It really does happen on an energy basis. It's the the energetic and the neural pathways in the body that are telling us that the body is under strain.
Yeah, and this is why kinesiology is so incredibly powerful, is because it catches things before they become serious. I mean, things it can also help with things that are serious, but it can catch early warning signs that there's a disharmony, there's an imbalance, there's a problem, and we can treat, like I said, we can treat structural problems, so problems with organs, problems with blood, problems with lymphatics, problems with bones, ligaments, joints. We can treat chemical problems, problems with what you eat, problems with what you breathe, problems with things you put on your body. We can treat emotional things, so that's stuff that's happening to you in the here and now, stresses that you're dealing with at work, stuff that's happened to you in the past, stuff that might be happening to you in the future, and energetic things. So that's every way you operate on an energetic level. So meridians and your ATP cycle and your chakras and everything that's an energetic response. So it's really a all-encompassing kind of treatment, which also gives the power back to the customer. Yes.
And all I was going to say is that I'm just piecing together a couple of things that you said there in terms of like the holistic treatment that you can offer via kinesiology, and the fact that it tells us stuff before it's likely to develop as a problem that we might identify, like let's say a cancer or something like that. I mean, the dangerous news for everyone is that no one so far is passing this muscle test. Everyone's body is under strain, and then eventually that will manifest itself in some kind of disease. It's just a question of how long. I guess you can draw the parallel with smoking. I guess there's some people that smoke until they're 85 and don't get cancer, but there's other people that have effects very early, and what science is telling us is that you're more likely to feel effects early, and it won't be long, I think, before we realise that the same is true of radiation.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask one more question, which is that this is something that happens a lot when we muscle test, is that people look at it, and because they're not familiar with it and what it does and how it operates and how clever it can be, they often say, "Oh, you pushed harder," or you didn't try that time, or you're just trying to get a result. What would you say to people who say that?
Well, we get them to be the guinea pig. So it is often hard for people to get around how a muscle goes from weight to strength in a matter of a second, or you just place your finger on a particular point of the body and that muscle will lose all its power immediately, because of the relevance of what you're touching there or wherever it might be. And basically, when you get the result and the body feels better, then you have to think, well, okay, there's something to it. But the skeptics are the best believers in the end, because it's when you come from a space where it's like that could never work, and then it does work, that will stay with you forever. So it was like me as well, because I'm quite into magic, but I'm also quite a scientist. I sort of have a mixture of both brains, and I wanted to find out how this worked. I was a bit skeptical too, and I thought, really? The muscle can just change like that, just from applying pressure on a particular part of the body? But then you do the test and then you do the treatment. So say, for example, we're working on the liver and we discover the liver needs a chemical fix, so we give it some milk thistle or whatever it might be, and then you give it just a drop of milk thistle, do maybe a little bit of neurolymphatic work just to get that nutrition to go into the body faster. And then the muscle's strong, the muscle that connects to the liver is strong, and you think, all I did was have a couple of sips of milk thistle. Well, that's the before and after. That's the test, the treatment, and then the retest to see, did you make the change? And when you see it go full circle, then you kind of understand a little bit more maybe how it works, and kind of think, okay, my skepticism has to go on a back shelf now because I kind of get it. But yeah, it still excites me and mystifies me. And the fact that kinesiology, well, let me just quickly give you a bit of background on this. So it was created by a guy called George Goodhart in the 40s in America. he was a chiropractor. He discovered that if you applied muscle testing before and after doing a manipulation, that manipulation lasted so much longer. So it goes to show that the muscle testing kind of is as if the body's in motion. We're all moving beings. We're not static. So we need to treat the body in a moving way. And so that was the very start of it. And it was called applied kinesiology. And then since then, many scientists have given contributions to it. So the great thing about training in it is you get all this scientific experimentation on a silver platter, and you do not have to go into horrible sort of radioactive rooms to test neurovascular bloods or neurolymphatic things. You can actually just be told, this is the result of someone's life's work, and here it is for you free of charge. So it's incredible. I'm so grateful to have all these tools at my fingertips. And kinesiologists, if you Google it or go on YouTube, you can find out so many things you can do to treat your own health as well. And that's why it's so powerful, because it puts the person in charge of their health.
That's amazing. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for testing some of your people that you knew, people that I knew, just to get that feel for how the body reacts when we put a laptop close to the body, a phone close to the body, and just to see some genuine results, but also to understand all of the reasons why those results were happening, which has been really useful to talk through. And we'll put Amanda's details underneath this video, so you can get in contact with her if you'd like to find out more about how kinesiology can help you, whatever you're recovering from. Me personally, I've detected things in my body that I had no idea about, and I don't think a hospital would have picked up, with all respect due to the hospital and so on. So I'm a believer. And also, just to underline, it's one of the only ways that we can use to show what's happening in the body when you have our phone in your hand. And it's really important right now, because you got your phone in your hand most of the day, so that's important. So thank you again to Amanda.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And see you again soon.
Okay. Good night.
Thanks for watching. The Omnia Radiation Balancer is the best solution to what some researchers are calling the health crisis of our time. Radiation consists of imbalanced waveforms. Omnia has the knowledge and ability to dial into the imbalanced waveforms and reset them so that they are balanced and will not harm the human body. And as Amanda said, we want strong bodies when we're holding our phones. You can stick an Omnia Radiation Balancer patch on any radiating device and return it to balance. And you can order at www.omniabalance.life. Special thanks to Amanda Rodgers, kinesiologist. She's practicing currently in South London. All her details will be posted below in the notes. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel, because there'll be plenty more videos to come. Thanks a lot.